Can't wait for this one because underrated draft prospects. There's tons of guys. We find the gems every single season where there's the guy that always stands out where you're like, how on earth did this guy fall back this far in the draft or whatever? How is this guy a third rounder, fourth rounder, fifth rounder, sixth rounder, seventh rounder, undrafted, although undrafted is usually unlikely. But you look at a guy, I'm pretty sure Darius Leonard was an undrafted free agent, and you look at him, he's one of the best linebackers in all the NFL. I got on, yes, I just talked about in this podcast, the Chicago Bears, and I got my Chicago Bears navy and orange on, also with the hat here. But it kind of fits into the theme with this guy because this team is navy and orange as well. This is one of my more favorite SEC teams, even though I'm a big Gamecocks fan. I wouldn't say I hate this team, even though this season I'm really excited for this game because we kind of have a built-in rivalry now just with the circumstances of what's happened with coaching changes and everything. Of course, I'm talking about the Auburn Tigers. And the guy that I think is the most underrated, one of the most underrated draft prospects in this draft this year, Seth Williams, number 18 for the Auburn Tigers. This is a really, really stacked wide receiver draft. We thought last year's was, you have Jerry Jeudy, you have Ruggs, you have CeeDee Lamb, you have tons of great guys there. Nothing against them, but Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, you go Terrace Marshall, you go Rashad Bateman, Rondell Moore, Kadarius Toney. Who else can I go? I had someone on the tip of my tongue. I'm forgetting. There's so many guys in this draft is basically what I'm trying to say here. Even like you look at tight ends, Kyle Pitts is still up there. Pat Freiermuth from Penn State. You got some good ball catchers in this draft. But Seth Williams is a guy that I do not see on many draft boards in the top 3 rounds. And he could be an absolute hit. He could be an absolute hit in the league. Why is he not getting the attention he deserves and everything? Well, his stats, they don't show the greatest. Like you look at his stats the last couple of seasons. 2018, his freshman season, 26 receptions, 534 yards for 5 touchdowns. Last season in 2019, he had 59 receptions, 830 yards for 8 touchdowns. And then in 2020, he had 47 receptions, 760 yards for 4 touchdowns. I think you have to look at a couple things here on why Seth Williams wasn't, or his stats aren't that good. First of all, his quarterback, I don't want to blame it all on the quarterback because Bo Nix could be good at some points over Seth Williams' career at Auburn, but there's other times where it just wasn't good at all, and he struggled. Seth Williams and Bo Nix, you saw him on the sidelines sometimes, just frustrated with each other. They just couldn't get on the same page, so I do feel, in a sense, for Seth Williams in that sense, and that's why his stats don't really show the greatest. But Seth Williams is a physical receiver. I hate to say it because I've been talking about Chicago Bears for the most of this podcast, but I'm going to compare him to probably my favorite player on the Chicago Bears. No, my favorite player on the Chicago Bears. I know 100%. I can't say that it will be a Chicago Bear next season because he still hasn't signed yet, but free agent Allen Robinson plays in the same play style as Seth Williams. Seth Williams is a guy he's not the fastest player on the field. No, that's what Anthony Schwartz is for. That's what Auburn used him for. Seth Williams is a guy who's going to jump up and make the big plays for you. He's going to convert those third downs. You could just toss up the ball to him. You could toss up any 50-50 ball, and he's going to come down with it most times. You look at a play this season, J.C. Horn had an amazing game against Seth Williams in, week 4 of college football in the SEC football. But there was one play where Seth Williams just mossed J.C. Horn down the middle of the field. And I look at plays like that. I look at some of the ones against Kentucky, the first game of the season. He had a couple touchdowns in that game. He has some he's got some bunny hops. Like, this kid can jump and he can go up and get a ball. I remember watching him some amazing plays in that Kentucky game. Another game that I remember watching Seth Williams going up against maybe arguably the best quarterback in all of college football. He did have a bit of a down year this season. I'm not talking about Patrick Surtain. Obviously, you look at the draft guys, you're going to think, J.C. Horn. You're going to think of Patrick Surtain. You're going to think of Caleb Farley. Derek Stingley Jr., who won Freshman of the Year. I think Seth Williams had an amazing game with the LSU cornerback paired up against him. Like, Seth was able to deke him out sometimes. Like, he was wide open for a good portion of that game. If I pull up his game log from that game, he had a really, really good game against LSU. He had 4 receptions, 71 yards against the top cornerback in all of college football. And he made some big plays. That was one of his better games. His best game this season was against Ole Miss, 8 receptions, 150 yards for 1 touchdown in that one. But you look at that and you're just like, Ole Miss secondary isn't that good. He also had lots of talent on that team. I said it again, Anthony Schwartz. He's a guy he's the fastest player in college football probably. Seth Williams is a 6'3" guy. He's tall for a wide receiver. This isn't the NBA where you're going to see like 6'7" guys, 6'8", 6'9", like guys going up at wide receiver. He's a pretty big guy, 211 pounds. That's a pretty good size for wide receiver. You look at like what Devontae Smith is. Devontae's like 175. I think Jamar's just at that like 210 or like between 200, 210 point for how much he weighs. So he's got some size to him. This is a guy who will play physical. He'll go up and get the balls. He'll go up and make plays. And I really think that this is a must-watch guy for a lot of teams, basically any team who's looking for a wide receiver. You look at the later rounds, I think my Bears should definitely have this guy somewhere circled on their board. Love to bring him to Chicago. I think the New England Patriots should, because wide receiver has been a struggle for them for a long time. They picked N'Keal Harry a couple years ago, first round of the draft. He struggled. He's had his struggles. Julian Edelman was injured last season. There was points last season where the Patriots didn't even play with a drafted receiver. Like, all their guys were undrafted free agents that they were playing with that season. So I think Seth Williams and the Patriots definitely should be something circled. You look at some other teams. Who needs receivers? I was about to say Cincinnati, but I think they're going to be fine. Cincinnati will be fine. Baltimore. Baltimore is definitely a team that needs some wide receivers. Look at some other teams. There's a ton. Every team could use a wide receiver, especially if you're going to steal a guy like this late rounds. So I think Seth Williams is a guy. Where is he from? Cottondale, Alabama. Went to Auburn. Had a pretty good career. I remember his first game ever was that one against Oregon, where Bo Nix just lobs the ball up to him towards the end zone. There's like 17 seconds left in the game. Seth Williams just goes up. He kind of has to come back for the ball, catches it, goes into the end zone. Auburn upsets Oregon in the first game, and I'm pretty sure that game was in Atlanta. So the kid knows how to play in some pretty big moments. He's beat Alabama before he's played in that game. I like this kid. What else can I say? Why else would I say he's underrated and a good player? And one of my favorite players, if he's not a good player, if he's not a guy that I have lots of faith in. So Seth Williams is definitely a guy that I'm going to have circled on my draft board and definitely going to watch out for on that draft weekend. I can't remember where it is. It's somewhere late April. It's like the 25th or something like that. He's a guy that I'm going to be circled all weekend, see where he goes, and love to see how he develops in the NFL, because you have some pretty big steals. I look at my Bears. Again, I'm comparing the Bears a lot because it's the team that I know the most about. Darnell Mooney was a guy that was a late round pick for the Bears. I think he went like 4th or 5th round. He was an amazing wide receiver this year. You look at Chase Claypool out of Notre Dame. He went like 3rd round to the Steelers. He, other than Justin Jefferson, he might have been the best rookie wide receiver this season. So it's happened before. I don't see why this guy cannot be one of the top wide receivers in this draft class that is absolutely stacked at the wide receiver position.